नमस्कार, मैं अशोक व्यास। गंभीरता वहाँ से आ जाती है जब हम देखते हैं संसार में कुछ ऐसी घटनाएं घटित हो रही हैं जो न केवल शांति को चुनौती हैं वर्तमान में, बल्कि भविष्य में भी वो कुछ इस तरह की स्थितियां बनाने की संभावना बढ़ाती हैं जिसमें लोगों में एक दूसरे के प्रति अविश्वास बढ़े, और वो अविश्वास सोशल मीडिया से फैलता हुआ हिंसा के रूप में सड़कों पर दिखाई देने लगे. And what I just said in Hindi means when there are influences that may reach on streets via social media also, um, and result into violent actions on the part of different groups for different reasons. But today we will focus with one report which came from Leicester, and we'll also talk about some other issues where the need to have strong voice against violence is realized by us, as we call world citizen, or we call citizen of America, India, whichever country you live in. I have the pleasure of welcoming someone who is dedicated to learn about some culture. He's also interested in history, though coming from the profession of noble profession of being a physician. Dr. Rakesh Sharma ji is joining me. Namaste, Dr. Welcome. So I begin with you, and Dr. We have come across the report or investigation related to what happened in Leicester, and I'll begin with that report's basis, uh, and I'll read with your permission the premises with which this report was prepared. This says physical attacks on innocent individuals and unwarranted damage to property are not part of a decent society, and indeed not part of our faith. What we have seen is not what we are about. We together call upon the immediate cessation of provocation and violence, both in thought and behavior. We together call upon the inciters of hatred to leave our city. And this, as I mentioned, is coming from Leicester, and the this is a Leicester City Joint Muslim and Hindu Leadership Statement. So now over to you. Uh, how do you see? And this is not the first time, and this is not, unfortunately, the last time.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation. Before I come to this Leicester riots, let's go back into history in 1500s when Babur came from Uzbekistan and captured part of India. Before he died, he actually selected a guy to write a book regarding whatever he did. It's called Baburnama. Baburnama is nothing but kind of biography of Babur by a man selected and paid by Babur. So if you read that book, you will think Babur was the most handsome guy, the very well educated, ultra intelligent, very giving, never killed a single bird. Every good thing was written regarding Babur in that book. But we know today that Babur was one of the vicious invaders who came to loot India and didn't even like India, was going to go back to conquer Uzbekistan again, and died while he was in Afghanistan. So history is written by one person, and you can alter any way do you want. You can be paid a lot of money and write very favorable for sorry
So,
for a
Doctor,
particular.
allow me to interrupt. I think you raised a very important point, and
What I'm
before we go
coming
to
down
that,
to in Leicester riots, if one person writes in a magazine or newspaper, in this case Henry Jackson Journal, and writing that riots were caused by Hindutva people and RSS extremists, you can obviously see the connection to my
no, no,
previous example
no, no,
that
no,
you
no,
can
no,
pay
no.
anybody
Yeah,
and can
sorry,
have
sorry,
any
sorry.
article written.
Yeah, so I must interrupt here. That is not the case. This is a finding of Center on Radicalization and Terrorism, and what their findings are, it's contrary to what you just probably alluded to, which happens at most of the places. And here they are saying that misinformation campaign is influencers, one who has been convicted on terrorism charges, one who praised the suspected mastermind of the Bombay bombings, and one who has offered prayers to the Taliban and was reported to have offered prayers to the brothers of an ISIL fighter, have inflamed community tensions, spreading fake news. So these are the points. So they actually said that accusations of RSS terrorists lead to a number of Hindu youth to temporarily relocate to their safety. There has never been a Hindu extremist terrorist attack in the UK, and the youth in question had no affiliation to RSS. So what they have done is, for a change, uh, a balancing act in terms of bringing out the facts and truths for people to appreciate that how this unfolded. So basically, these social media influencers made use of the power which they have of connecting to people and probably building on some agenda which resulted into this situation. So once again, I repeat, they have said that RSS and Hindutva had nothing to do with this sort of a situation that erupted. And basically, this is not a newspaper article. This is Henry Jackson Society that did investigative report, so that they can prevent such things from happening again. But again, I bring to you, so there are mindsets which have access to resources, whether it is social media or another media, and they somehow gain something by painting, let's say in this case, lesser the Hindus. And if you remember, Sadhvi Ritambaraji was due to address one of the temple, and that became a sort of a triggering point for them to spread this kind of ideas in Leicester. So this is, I don't know whether you didn't probably get the chance to see this report, but this is how this has unfolded. And I also just read one para from this. It says a misinformation campaign accused sections of the Hindu community and a number of Hindu temples of having connections to a political organization, the RSS in India. This has riled community tension, leading to violence in Leicester and Birmingham, with threats of violence elsewhere, including the targeting of Hindu temples. Influencers involved in spreading of misinformation have been heavily relied upon by mainstream media for comment, and most worryingly, have been seen to meet with Leicester City Mayor to discuss the future of the independent review into the unrest. So I think in West, many times Indian reporters are also saying that they uh, they have not been such objective report, uh, fact finding, investigative report as is this. So, in the light of what I just shared, because you started off from a different angle, which has happened many times, but in this case, it is different.
But Mr. Vyas, here just the mention of word Hindutva and RSS is in a very negative way. Like these people had nothing to do with RSS or Hindutva, means that Hindutva or RSS or both are bad organizations. That's a projection that these people want to project, or this is the information they want to give, as if Hindutva is nothing but a terrorist mindset. RSS is nothing but a terrorist organization. And as we all understand, Hindutva or Hindus are perhaps the most peaceful people on this earth. If we have to look into from top to bottom, I think Sanatan Dharam and Judaism are the only two religions that have never been involved into invading other nations or in any violence. Same way, RSS is a big organization, has never participated in any kind of violent activities in India or abroad. To mention their name in any riot outside India is not only a joke but trying to make them malicious organizations, and that's what I'm objecting to.
Okay, so maybe we are seeing it slightly differently, and I see your point of view. But what they are saying is exactly what you said is not the case. So they are saying these were used to pump up these kind of sentiments. They are not blaming them. So there is slight difference, but yet what you are saying, underneath probably there is that perception which somebody may carry from this on subtle level. But they have actually also given definition of these terms and saying that Hindutva, for most, Hindutva translates as the belief in the merit of the political hegemony of Hinduism in India. So I think they have used some definitions which are given by the Western scholars, and that what you are saying also probably carries some weight, but their overall objective and the conclusions drawn are different than what I thought you are inferring from this. But let me sort of track back slightly, and what are the proactive steps that not just Leicester but any society can take to prevent such escalation of violence on massive scale, or at least having this kind of fear in air for any group?
Okay, there are two important things. Number one, when we lie to ourselves or we are not truthful to ourselves. That's number one. Number two, in a society, when you don't blame someone who needs to be blamed. What has happened in the name of liberal society, we are saying that all the religions are same. It's like saying all the five fingers are of same length of the hand. Same, all the five fingers of the hand are of same length. If that is accurate, then all the religions are extremely peaceful. If someone believes into that, then of course there cannot be any problem. Then we should close the case. But I am not agreeable to that kind of statement. All the fingers of the hand are not equal, and all the religions are not equal. If you look at all the problems in the world in the last 1,000 years or so, you will see that there are certain religions that never participated in violence. And on the other hand, there are two Abrahamic religions that have not done anything peacefully. And that's where the difference lies. We educated people, civilized people, want to tell rest of the world that everything is same, and I don't agree with that. So when we are not truthful to ourselves, I think this is bound to happen. And that's why we see so much violence in the world, because people who are in power, which I mean politicians, always whitewash certain religions, certain nations, and we are paying the price for that.
Okay, so I see your point, and I think it is worth repeating that if we ignore the facts, as well as if we twist the truth to suit certain narrative, it is bound to hurt, and it may result in these kind of. And just to support what you said, um, so in this world of social media, while we have so much easy access to information, we also have the problem of getting to the real identity. So there could be somebody with your fake account, Dr. Rakesh Sharma, and he writes few things on your behalf, and it is too late by the time people know that it was not Dr. Rakesh Sharma, it was someone else who was kind of generating this. So let me take a moment to welcome another guest for this session, Dr. Dheeraj Kaul. He got delayed, but now I welcome you, Dheeraj ji. And what we are discussing is related to what happened in Leicester, and you have missed part of it. I'll just continue. So there were some tweets, Dr. Sharma and Dr. Deepak, regarding that. And why I thought it is important for us to discuss is because these things are not confined to any geographical boundary. So here was a tweet on September 19th by Indian American Christians. Now, this tweet was regarding Modi's influence in the Leicester's riots. And I'll read it, and you'll know that there is no basis to it. But as social media influencer, this might also cause certain people to think in certain way. So it says the riots on the streets of Leicester, UK this week, funded and sponsored by Prime Minister Modi's party supporters, is an early warning sign to US officials who support Hindu nationalist ideology in one form or the another. Now, this is given in the report as an example. They are not supporting what is said here. Dr. Sharma, I just wanted to make it clear. And so let's hear from Dheeraj about how you see these. It is a kind of a mechanism, Dr. Sharma and Dr. Kaul, where you see certain people play on the psyche of people. They create fear, they make use of fake information, they plant certain facts which leads to these kind of charged emotions, etc. uh, what way social media influencers can be prevented from acting um, irresponsibly to this extent, Dr. Dheeraj?
Namaskar. Thank you for having me on the show. Sorry for the delay. Actually, I think you are raising a very important question, and I think world has to catch up with the power of social media when it comes to judiciary. As you know, judiciary in India, especially, is very delayed in catching up and updating the laws. And social media is a phenomena we are seeing in last 8 to 9 years, and to be specific, 5 to 6 years. It's changing very, very fast. You're absolutely right. There are dot plot accounts, there are fake accounts, there are one person having say 10,000 accounts and creating they call themselves influencer or opinion builders, but they are paid. It's a paid content. I personally am also on social media, pretty not that active but relatively active, more than my friends, and I have been connected to people who have millions and followers on social media, and when they start speaking, uh, it can take a toll on how the narrative is built. Let's put it this way. Unfortunately, even they are penetrated very well in opinion building when it comes to the electoral process, which is actually stealing the democratic narrative. So they can make you think that there is a crisis, like it happened recently in India. Recently, they've tried to nag the unfortunate death of 150 close people in Gujarat to the political failure of BJP when it was under the local municipality, and the people have been identified. So it was very big time tweeted as well and trended on Facebook Live, on Twitter Live, and I was also on one of the where people were talking in depth. And sometimes you actually have the right set of narratives also. So it's a double-edged sword. You really need to know how to regulate it. I think we are way behind the time to regulate it, but you'll be very surprised and happy to know that the Ministry of Justice in India is actively working on making sure that they are accountable, especially when they say we have fact-based evidence. Even the media, to some extent, has to be brought under this umbrella of little bit of accountability, although they are the fourth pillar. But at the same time, they cannot instigate emotions and cause riots, which we have seen in different areas, and make people helpless or fear mongering. Let's put it this way. I think the central government is very serious on it, actively working, but we have miles to go. So I really agree with what you're pointing out to.
So, Dr. Sharma, we'll touch few other issues also along with this continuity of the reference to Leicester. I'll bring you back to New York, and recently, I'm very sad on that level. This gentleman who has been creative, Salman Rushdie, there was a fatwa against him, and in New York, out of all places, he was stabbed multiple times recently, and now we hear that he probably lost one of his eye, and he may not be able to use one of his hand. Um, and yet, the one who attacked him had no regret. So that is one side. There's another case. I am saying it case, unfortunately, but a Shiv Sena Taksali leader, Mr. Suri, was killed. He was shot dead in Punjab. In the presence of police. He was given security, but that happened, and someone on tweet not just appreciates the killer, but he also threatens that such attacks would happen. Now, there are more multiple things happening. We'll go to Pakistan also slightly, but talk to me about the mindset of people who want to make use of violence uh, to move things in certain fashion, which is, of course, uncivilized, brutal, and is there any way that the world community can come together to prevent escalation of violence, and how voice against violence could be strengthened?
Well, your last sentence reminds me of John Lennon, the song that he wished there was peace and everybody could live in harmony. But that song is roughly 50 years old. In the last 50 years, instead of peace and harmony, we have seen more violence. So this is a wishful thinking, and it's not going to happen, not in my lifetime. Uh, when you talk about your first point was about people reacting to Salman Rushdie's attack. Did you see world leaders of Muslim countries coming out and condemning attack on Salman Rushdie?
No.
You did not. Did we see 1.7 billion Muslims criticizing the attacker on Salman Rushdie? Not even 1,000 people. So, this is the point I was trying to make earlier. If we are not truthful to ourselves, we can keep on dreaming about peace and harmony, and it's not going to happen. 1.7 billion is not a small number, but you can understand why there's violence, because, as there's a famous quote, if there is a crime, the silent spectator is actually equal partner in that crime if he doesn't raise his voice. This is what's happening. It's not just one attacker who attacked Salman Rushdie, it's also the fault of 1.7 billion people who did not raise their voice against this kind of violence. And that's why we don't see any end to this kind of attacks, and society just cannot be peaceful.
So I think we are at a very difficult crossroad as human race, where speaking the truth may be hurtful for someone, but even if they are indulging in activities which are hurtful for you, then you have to find a proper way to articulate what you need to say. Now, I'll take you to Pakistan, Dheeraj. You saw the attack on former Prime Minister Imran Khan, though he saved. The only connecting thread here is thread here that I'm referring to is the violent action. Now we hear some sound from someplace. So talk to me about the situation in Pakistan, and again, the way newspapers are reporting have different uh, sort of stands to this overall thing. Some people say that it's created by his own party members, and okay, talk your understanding of this issue. Attack.
Yeah, I actually did a couple of interviews on the issue in geopolitical section of the national media in India. Coming, so I do understand a little bit of finance. So as you all know, like for last 2 to 3 years, Pakistan in a very big turmoil. I'm not talking about political event, which is later on. I'm talking about financial. The policies of Imran Khan almost made the country bankrupt, as we know. And not to talk about the floods, which actually caused a $30 billion of loss, and approximately 1,500 lives were lost and many wounded. Um, Before the flood, actually, just let me point out 2022-2023 fiscal year, July to June, Pakistan was requiring $33.5 billion as per their central bank to stay out of bankruptcy. And then IMF and China, they had to return 27 billion to China by December this year, which they are working on. And their rupee, if you go 1 year ago, it was 170 rupees to $1. Today it's 217. So 27% drop, which is huge. Inflation is approximately 24%. In Pakistan, energy is super expensive. Electricity cuts are going on. People can't afford health. Now, this is before the attack on Imran Khan. So that has brought a different, you can say, a spark to the barood which is on the ground. And social unrest is very big time seen currently. There was recently lockdown done on Islamabad. to prevent. And this is the first time you are seeing people, regular people, are encircling the big bungalows of army guys, their ISI people. Their establishment is being targeted by common people because they feel they have been cheated. So Pakistan is going through a very delicate time of social unrest. Is there a chance it can split into fragments? Absolutely. But this is causing a lot of instability in the area. And after especially the shooting of Imran Khan, who's already challenging the current democratic establishment in Pakistan, I'm talking about bureaucracy and judiciary. He's bringing them online as well. So this is causing people to split into two big splinters. And I think we have very rough times to cause. I know personally two physicians who are stranded in Pakistan as of 2 days ago. Hopefully now they can fly back to US. So it's a very, very bad turmoil. And during this time, recently, there was a statement by the Defense Minister of India, Mr. Rajnath Singh, about re-establishing and retouching the things they mentioned in their election campaign about getting back the areas of occupied Kashmir, Gilgit and Baltistan, which is a huge area. A lot of people don't realize Gilgit and Baltistan was actually declared its own independence under British Major, which was a conspiracy, and a huge land, which is actually, to be very specific, 72,000 square kilometer, which is 28,000 mile. Gilgit Baltistan was just given away. Nobody interjected, nobody stopped. And it's out of my understanding what made the Indian army stop reclaiming that area, just because Sheikh Abdullah said people who follow him are on this side. Rest of the side you can let it go. And Nehruji said, fine with me. Although Indian army was getting doing very well, exceptionally well. You can find those videos. It's still a mystery, and still a mystery why in 1971, when we gave them 99,000 soldiers from Bangladesh, we didn't ask for it back. And let me tell your viewers, that area is so rich in cobalt, nickel, you name precious stones, rubies. It's phenomenal. It has phenomenal minerals, rare minerals, which we need for semiconductor development, for space mining, you name it. And that is geopolitically so strategic. Around 23% of the frozen glaciers of the world exist there. That means reserve of fresh water, and water is going to be the next gold in next 20 to 30 years. So it's a very critical area which connects India to Afghanistan. It borders with Afghanistan. It borders with Pakistan. It borders even with Kyrgyzstan to some level.
Somehow, I think you have very valuable information, but we just have 2 minutes to go. And I would like to once again mention, Dr. Sharma, that there are multiple references in the report that I mentioned where social media influencers with a lot of influence, they show some picture, distorted information, some video from some other place. And the Leicester police countered by one tweet there. We have seen reports on social media that a mosque is being attacked. Officers on the ground have confirmed this is not true. Please only share information on social media you know to be true. But this was done by police, and the number of people who might have seen this tweet is much less than, say, 100,000 or whatever n number of followers that the social media influencer have. So they put whichever community is targeted in a vulnerable position, and it is very, very difficult to come out of it. So proactively, how it can be prevented, I don't see that happening. And maybe if there are some more counter checks and balances in terms of what is being disseminated as information, probably that will help. But just 30 seconds for you to conclude for us, Dr. Sharma.
Uh, I think media has to take some responsibility. They cannot be one-sided. Sometimes you see BBC reporting only negative news about India. You also see good work done by RSS or some other organizations never reported. So
Actually,
that's
yeah, I'll leave it at that. But connecting with the thread that people who are good, they are also painted as villains, and they continue to be painted as villains, and that prejudice kind of helps in enhancing these sort of a violent situations. And we all need to have calm mind to process information and reach to our conclusion, keeping the main objective of all of us safe on the top priority. That will be the strength of voice against violence. Dr. Sharma, thank you very much for joining. Dr. Dheeraj, thank you very much for being part of this conversation. With lots of good wishes. Namaste.